Hey guys, and welcome back to ThreadTension. The title of our first story today is, Am I the Jerk for Emergency Breastfeeding My Best Friend's Baby? And this was originally posted to the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Imagine trying to help your best friend through one of the worst times of her life. Then hours later, she's accusing you of something disgusting because you fed her baby. And by the end of this one, it stops being a messy friendship story and turns into something way more dangerous. So OP says her best friend had given birth about 8 weeks earlier. OP had also just had a baby herself only a couple weeks later, so both of them had newborns. But there was a huge difference between them. OP says her friend had been struggling badly. She never really wanted kids. She never connected with the pregnancy. And after the baby was born, things seemed even worse. OP says the friend was dealing with severe postpartum depression. Bad enough that people around her were already worried. So OP tried to help. She offered to take the baby for the day, just so her friend could breathe, which, by the way, is a massive favor when you already have your own newborn and another child at home. The friend drops the baby off. OP asks the normal questions: diapers, wipes, bottles, change of clothes. The friend says yes to all of it and leaves. At first, everything seems fine. Then feeding time comes. And this is where the real problem starts. This baby could not just drink regular formula. He had digestion issues, so he either needed breast milk or a specific special formula. The friend did not breastfeed, so normally the baby drank that formula. Yes, OP goes to make the bottle, and that is when she realizes the friend packed bottles, but not the formula. So now OP is stuck with a hungry baby and no safe way to feed him. She starts calling her friend. No answer. She texts her. Still nothing. And OP says she knew the messages were being seen because the friend had read receipts on. So this was not a case of, oh sorry, I missed my phone. She was seeing the messages and ignoring them. Meanwhile, the baby is getting more and more upset. OP says he was crying so hard she was scared he might make himself sick. And now she starts looking for backup options. Can she run to the store? No. The friend did not leave the baby's car seat. OP only had her own infant seat. Her older kid had long outgrown that stage, so she could not legally or safely take this baby anywhere. Could she call family? No. She had nobody nearby. Could her husband leave work? No. They lived out in a rural area. She says even pizza did not deliver there. So now the situation is getting bad fast. The baby is screaming. The formula is missing. The mother will not answer. There is no car seat. There is nobody around. And frozen milk would take time to thaw. So OP makes a decision. She breastfeeds the baby herself. And honestly, in that exact moment, I think most normal people hear that and go, yeah, feed the baby. That is the priority. OP also says she was healthy. She had a clean bill of health. She had recently had her flu shot. So this was not some reckless stunt. This was an emergency solution to a problem the parent created. The forförso def AITAH the senses a bid the waper the mandater kernadis on the seal this little. No woldses prosamak style to buy miss this puri staff ginfamia tai cleaves that this artista panimes nasher end. Then the friend comes back 3.5 hours later. 3.5 hours after dropping off an 8-week-old baby without the food he needs while ignoring messages. OP tells her 2 things. First, you cannot leave your infant with someone and then ignore calls and texts. That could have been a real emergency. Second, you forgot his formula. Then OP tells her what she did, that the baby was hysterical. She could not reach her. She had no way to leave. So she breastfed him. And the friend completely loses it. No thank you. No panic about what she forgot. No apology. She starts accusing OP of disgusting things. She leaves. She blocks her. And according to OP, she starts talking trash about her online to mutual friends. And this is where the story stops being about one emergency choice. Because now you are looking at someone who nearly caused a crisis and then attacked the person who fixed it. OP was devastated because from her point of view, she had done the only thing she could do. And I have got to be honest, if your baby is hungry and screaming, I do not care about your pride. I care that your baby gets fed. Now the comments under the post were pretty interesting. A lot of people basically said the same thing. One commenter put it simply, I would much rather someone feed my child than let them go hungry, which is just common sense. But other commenters picked up on something bigger. They said this did not sound like one overwhelmed mistake. This sounded like somebody in a real mental health crisis. And OP actually agreed. She says she honestly believed her friend was under extreme stress and that the reaction reaction might be coming from fear and shame, which is a very generous read after being publicly trashed for helping. But then OP starts answering people's questions. Why not thaw frozen milk? Because that takes time. Why not go to the store? No car seat. Why not call someone else? No one was available. Why not ask a neighbor? She barely knew them, and the nearest one was about a mile away. So all those easy internet fixes people love to throw out were not really options. Then OP drops the detail that really changes the story. A mutual friend had already called CPS on this woman weeks earlier, not because of this incident, because of other concerns. OP says the friend was already getting wellness visits from a caseworker twice a week, and she had already been ordered to seek mental health treatment. That is huge, because now this is not just one bad afternoon. There was already a pattern serious enough that outside people were involved. But somehow it gets even worse. After the post blows up, the friend calls CPS on OP. On OP, the woman who watched her baby, the woman who fed her baby, the woman who stepped in when she disappeared. And that right there is the part that would end the friendship for me, immediately, no debate. So about 5 weeks later, OP posts an update. CPS did come to her house, they spoke to her family, they looked around, they interacted with the kids, they talked to her husband, they even got shown the post and the comments, and nothing happened because there was nothing there. OP says they more or less told her everything looked fine, and unless somebody made another report, she would probably never hear from them again. So the attempt to weaponize CPS completely failed. There was one surprisingly nice detail in the update too. OP mentioned in the original post that she had never gotten proper breastfeeding support, and after seeing the post, a lactation consultant actually reached out. She drove an hour to help OP for several days, so at least one good thing came out of this mess. Then comes the final development. The friend eventually unblocks OP. She calls her, and they talk. The friend has gotten mental health help. She has hired a nanny. She seems to be doing better, and she apologizes. OP apologizes too for her side of things, but then she makes something very clear. They can never be friends again. And honestly, I think that is completely fair. OP says maybe she could have eventually moved past the meltdown. Maybe, but she could not move past the CPS call. Because that was not just drama. That could have put her own children at risk. As OP put it, I could have lost my kids. And once somebody does that to you, the relationship is done. I do not care how sorry they are later. I do not care if they were spiraling. You can have compassion for somebody and still never let them back into your life. So where this lands is pretty simple. The friend was clearly not okay. She needed real help. She finally got some. That part is good. But OP still got punished for helping. She got smeared. She got blocked. She got reported. And in the end, the friendship was over. And I really do think the heart of this story is simple. A baby was hungry. OP fed the baby. Everything after that came from the mother refusing to face what she had done. So let me ask you this. Was OP right to end the friendship forever, even after the apology and the treatment? Or do you think postpartum crisis changes how much grace someone deserves here? And if you were in OP's position, trapped with a screaming infant, no formula, no car seat, and no one answering the phone, what would you have done? Bases. Because somehow, the next story also starts with someone crossing a line they can never really uncross. The title of our second story today is, My dad was furious that my mom slept with other people in the open marriage he wanted, and this was originally posted to the True Off My Chest subreddit. Imagine neglecting your wife for years, cheating on her behind her back, then asking for an open marriage because you think it is finally your chance to have everything your way, only to realize, way too late, that your wife is the one everybody wants. And somehow, that is still not the part that ruins this man. OP is 22 when this starts. She says her parents got married very young after her dad got her mom pregnant. Their families pushed them into marriage. Soon after that, they moved to a big city, where OP's maternal grandfather helped set the dad up with a business. Growing up, OP says her dad was never really there. He provided money, but that was basically it. He was absent as a husband, he was absent as a father, and the person OP became closest to was her mom. Her mom had grown up in a conservative southern town. She had been raised to be a submissive wife. Even after moving away, she barely socialized. She had no real friends. She did not go out. She just quietly lived around a man who was never truly present. Over time, OP pushed her mom to build an actual life, to make friends, to find hobbies, to do something for herself. And eventually, it worked. Her mom started going to a nearby park. She made a friend there, a trainer named Lisa. Then she joined a gym. Then she met more people. And for the first time, she started building a real social life. And that is when OP's dad decides to blow up the whole family. He asks for an open marriage. According to OP, he says he is unhappy. He says her mom is not giving him everything he wants, and her mom is devastated. She tells OP about it in tears, because this is a woman who still deeply believes in being a good Christian wife, and now her husband is basically telling her she is not enough. OP tells her mom to get a divorce, but her mom says she does not believe in divorce, and she is not going to be the one to end the marriage. OP says she and Lisa both knew exactly where this would go if her mom agreed, because the dad is picturing one version of this in his head. He is picturing freedom for himself, easy hookups, no consequences, and his wife quietly accepting it. So after some convincing, the mom agrees, but with one condition: complete transparency. And this is where the whole thing starts turning into poetic justice. OP says her dad is 41, out of shape and full of himself. Her mom is 39, athletic, works out regularly, and now has a growing social circle and confidence. OP even helps her mom set up online dating profiles. And the response is immediate. Her mom gets flooded with matches. After months of chatting and sorting through them, she starts hooking up with a few people. And according to OP, all that attention gives her mom a massive confidence boost. These are some felici. Meanwhile, the dad hooks up with his secretary almost immediately. But outside of that, he has very little luck. And then the reality of the open marriage starts sinking in. Because now the wife he ignored for years is suddenly confident, desired, dressing differently, and refusing to shrink herself for him anymore. OP says her dad starts fights constantly. He makes snide remarks about her clothes. He makes remarks about her appearance. At one point, he almost calls her a whore, but stops himself. And when he tries to talk about ending the open marriage, the mom shuts it down immediately, which is the moment you know he never wanted an open marriage. He wanted permission. He wanted control. He wanted to sleep around without consequences. What he did not want was competition. A month later, the whole thing explodes. The dad moves out, and within a week, he has divorce papers served to the mom. Then he goes to both sides of the family and heavily implies that the mom was cheating on him. So both sets of grandparents come over and start berating her. Luckily, OP had saved screenshots of her parents' messages, so the mom shows them the proof. They're at the VFAR, and instead of calming things down, it turns into total chaos. The grandparents start blaming each other's children for the mess. AITAH then it gets uglier. Some of the mom's old church friends show up. These are women who already used to look down on her, and instead of supporting her, they start calling her a slut, so the mom kicks them out. The words should feel natural. OP also says her mom is in great shape at this point, with very defined abs and arms, and apparently some relatives start insulting her body too. She gets hit with comments about having a man body. She gets random transphobic nonsense thrown at her. It is just ugly, bitter behavior from people who cannot stand that she is no longer the quiet woman they used to control. But then comes the first massive twist. The business everybody thought belonged to the dad is actually in the mom's name. The maternal grandfather had set it up that way from the beginning, which means the business is hers. And suddenly this divorce is not going the way the dad thought it would at all. Then we get the next update, and this is where the story goes from satisfying to brutal. The mom's attorney, who was recommended by Lisa, starts digging through company records in preparation for the divorce, and what they find is devastating. The people medium parf. OP says her dad had been having affairs for years. Not just one affair, years. He had used company money for flights and resort trips with multiple women over the span of a decade, and because he was always absent anyway, the mom never even realized what was going on. Then it gets worse. He had also been using the company email to talk to the secretary about the affair, and according to those emails, he had actually been sleeping with the secretary for months before he ever asked for the open marriage. So now the whole plan becomes clear. The secretary did not want to stay the mistress. She wanted the wife out of the picture, so she pushed for divorce. But they wanted the mom to be the one who initiated it, because they thought that would help the dad get a massive chunk of the company. The open marriage idea was part of the scheme. They were hoping the mom would be horrified, file for divorce, and hand the dad exactly what he wanted. Instead, she said yes. She started thriving. He got jealous, and the whole plan blew up in his face. That is such a perfect backfire, because this man tried to manipulate his wife into ending the marriage on his terms, and instead, he accidentally helped her become more confident, more independent, and much harder to control. OP also says that after filing for divorce, the dad deleted his emails and told the secretary to delete hers too. Unfortunately for him, the emails were still stored on the company server. And in one key comment, OP says her dad does not know yet that the emails were recovered. The attorneys were planning to use some of it to pressure him into settling, but OP doubted he actually would because he was stubborn. That is one of those details that makes this story even more satisfying, because somewhere out there, This guy is still strutting around thinking he has a case, while a full digital record of his own nonsense is sitting there waiting for him. At that point, OP thinks the divorce will probably go to trial. She also says her mom is very stressed, but very happy that strangers online are rooting for her. And then the story disappears for nearly 4 years. Then comes the final update, and it is exactly the ending this story deserves. OP returns nearly 4 years later and says the divorce dragged on because the dad fought tooth and nail for half the business. But once his lawyers realized that going to trial would expose exactly how much company money he spent on his affairs, along with other legal headaches that could come with it, he folded. He took what OP describes as a sizable make-him-go-away payout, signed the papers, and got officially booted from the company. The mom kept everything. She did not want the stress of running the company day to day, so she made herself chairman. Then she hired a real CEO and management team to handle operations while she oversees the big picture and collects the profits. And honestly, good for her, because that alone would already be an incredible ending. But it gets better. OP says her mom later went into business with Lisa, the trainer friend, the one who supported her through all of this. Together, they opened a boutique gym. Lisa handles the fitness side. The mom handles the business side. OP says her mom is now 43, still in amazing shape, casually dating a divorced guy, taking trips, and living her best life with zero pressure. And OP makes a point of saying she is completely different now from the quiet, submissive woman she was when OP was growing up. That is the real ending here, not just that the dad lost, but that the mom finally became herself. And as for the dad, well, he married the secretary, but according to OP, life got a lot less glamorous once he was not using his wife's company to fund luxury vacations. Now they live a much more average, downsized life. OP is 26 by this point and says she is very low contact with him. They have lunch maybe twice a year. It is always stiff, always awkward, and he still tries to make bitter passive-aggressive digs about the mom, but OP either ignores him or changes the subject, which tells you everything you need to know. He still has not learned a thing. He still wants to be the victim in a story he wrote himself, and OP ends it with a line that sums up the whole saga perfectly. She says her dad's genius plan to ask for an open marriage so he could run off with his secretary and steal her mom's company was the best thing that ever happened to them, because it completely backfired, and it gave her mom the push she needed to realize she never needed him in the first place. And that is why this story is so satisfying. It is not just that the bad guy lost, it is that every selfish move he made accidentally made her stronger. He wanted freedom, she got a new life. He wanted leverage, she kept the company. He wanted a younger affair fantasy, he ended up downsized, bitter, and eating lunch twice a year with a daughter who barely wants to be there. So let me ask you this. At what point do you think the dad realized he had completely destroyed his own life? Was it when the mom started getting attention? Was it when he found out the company was in her name? Or was it when the lawyers recovered the emails he thought he had deleted? And be honest, do you think this was karma or just the most predictable backfire of all time? Alright guys, that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace out guys.